Welcome to Voices in Local Government, an ICMA podcast. My name is Gabe Daugherty, and today we're discussing the Economic Recovery Corps program with Contessa, a current Economic Recovery Corps fellow, and her host, Jessica, who is the Economic Development Director with Taos County, New Mexico. Welcome, Contessa and Jessica.
Hi.
Thank you.
Now, the Economic Recovery Corps program, or ERC for short, is funded by the Economic Development Administration and led by the International Economic Development Council. The program is designed to help communities build long-term economic resilience by investing in people, nurturing relationships, and strengthening local systems. 65 dynamic fellows, from accomplished entrepreneurs to nonprofit professionals, from veterans to passionate community leaders, have spent the last 2.5 years in communities all over the country, large and small, working to deliver lasting impact. The website for the program is economicrecoverycorps.org and is linked wherever you are listening. Jessica, to start us off, could you tell us a little bit about Taos County? What makes it such a unique place, and what were some of the opportunities or challenges that led you to pursue this project?
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. And thank you so much for having us on this podcast. We're really excited to be here. And I love doing interviews with Contessa. I feel like we're a good team. So thank you. So Taos County is such a unique and special place in the world. It's geographically diverse, it's rural, we have high alpine peaks, we have deep canyons of the Rio Grande River. The Rio Grande River is redundant, but it's home to the longest continually inhabited community of Taos Pueblo with over 1,000 years of living history, and home to nearly 600 years of Hispanic tradition and culture. These histories are blended, they're complex, and they're very much alive today. It's also attracted artists and dreamers for centuries, which creates a whole other layer of complexity in terms of representation and exhibition and expression, but also oftentimes exploitation. So it's a very, very interesting and, again, complex, beautiful, human place. I came into this work and my position about 2 weeks before the ERC application was due, and had been working on a research and program development project that explored how communities might engage in cultural asset mapping for the purposes of self-advocacy and self-determination and preservation and development. And so it was a really interesting moment to kind of step in and see this opportunity or this challenge, because Taos County is at an inflection moment, and has been since the COVID-19 pandemic. Demographics are dramatically shifting. Housing costs have more than doubled. Access to opportunity and economic mobility is completely inequitable. And people are afraid of losing their connection to their culture and their land. And so our leadership, for some reason, 2 weeks into my job, trusted me to apply for this project. And we were selected, and it's been an honor.
Contessa, when you first learned about this fellowship and the opportunity to work in Taos County, what excited you the most about the project?
The most. I think it would probably be valuable too for me to just provide some context for my relationship to this place. So yes, my name is Contessa Trujillo. I come from this place. This place is my ancestral land. My family has been here for centuries, and even before that, I have Taos Pueblo lineage. And during a time alongside the complexities that Jessica has spoken about, have resulted in an excommunication and like a lack of relationship to that facet of identity, and there is a deeply like complicated and rich history here, of which is kind of like in my blood and in my bones, and being a mestiza, mixed blood person of this place, and being of Spanish descendancy and indigenous descendancy. And even I think when my family resided here when this was still Mexico. So we always kind of joke that like we never moved to the border moved. But that has resulted in a lot of, kind of relationship to place, relationship to land, a lot of struggle and hardship that has resulted in us being able to be resilient people who have been able to retain relationship and livelihoods in this place, given all of the layers and iterations of just like complexity throughout history. And so I think the opportunity when this came about to participate in this project and opportunity, it came off of the foothills of some prior work I had been doing with regard to destination stewardship and really understanding the landscape and the challenges and harms and historical extraction that has come kind of with tourism as a primary economic driver in this place, which we're learning a lot about too, and the history and deep roots there throughout time as well. You know, this isn't necessarily something new, but really understanding more of the complexities around that and garnering community voice to really imbue a more thorough vision and understanding of what that looked like. And so that resulted in a plan or framework called the Taos Destination Stewardship Plan that really outlines a lot of the findings from that, which stem from people, boots on the ground in the community, doing work related to acequias, related to culture, lifeways, heritage, all of these facets of identity in this place that make it so special and beloved and unique in all of those facets. And with this project, with the Cultural Treasures Project, or the ERC Fellowship rather, it was really interesting and kind of it was very timely, I guess, in terms of being able to have the opportunity to really dig deeper and to understand what those values are, what those facets of identity or culture are, in order to create opportunities to further uplift community voice, needs, challenges, and to make determinations or suggestions around how to protect, restore, and revitalize those things. I'm so grateful and honored to continue to be able to do this work.
No, that's awesome. It's really cool to kind of hear identity coming from Jessica and the Taos County side, and then you giving your own identity and how that's all woven together. That's awesome. Jessica, what made the ERC program feel like the right fit? Why was having someone like Contessa, a dedicated fellow to this work, so important?
Yeah. So on the program side, when it became an opportunity, really at the beginning again of this position, the opportunity specifically being capacity was huge for Taos County. So I started this work in June of 2023. I was charged with establishing a new department within local government. There had never been a full-time permanent economic development position within Taos County government. And I knew that to do anything that could be remotely transformative, I was going to need help. And so the chance to work with not only a fellow, but to work with Contessa specifically, and to have also a connection to a national network of partners, what an enormous gift to be part of this program at that time and in these nascent years of this department within local government that really needed that attention, by someone who has such deep roots in this community, to be able to come in and build trust and build momentum and build connection, and highlight things that are so meaningful to people.
Thanks so much for that. Contessa, you've been working in Taos County as a fellow, at least, since 2024. What have been some of the accomplishments or just even the moments that made you feel like this work, what I'm doing, is making a difference?
At the core of that is really the facet of connection. And so I think where, going back to the destination stewardship work, where that was uplifted by the town of Taos government space, and then quickly the Taos County came in as a partner, because this geographic area spans so far outside of town of Taos proper. And so really looking at the community meant to be served. And then with the Cultural Treasures Project, really kind of having that foundational geography be set in Taos County as a whole, really set the stage for what I like to say is like big C community, which is all of Taos County, and then the smaller C communities are like the smaller, more intimate communities therein. And as a rural place in general, I think like each of those kind of niche communities has their own kind of flair, but where we have the opportunity to really serve the big C community in a greater way through Taos County was at the center of that. And so the ability to further gather community members and really key people and voices that are trusted and respected and beloved within their smaller C communities, to get all of those folks in a room to develop an advisory group to really understand the big C community needs. And for me, I think the biggest takeaway and the most valuable piece is the connections and relationships that are being made in that space, because it really allows people to work together more thoroughly and fluidly towards the greater needs that are facing the entirety of Taos County based on, gentrification, affordability, opportunities. We talk a lot about brain drain. And so having more eyes and boots on the ground in these varying spaces really helps to identify people and voices and knowledge that we need to bring into these conversations in order to tackle some of these bigger problems, or understand where there are other opportunities or where we can work better as a collective. I think alongside that, and bringing in back into the conversation, like the deep and complex history and the true diversity of Taos County as a whole, that advisory group and the conversations and the way in which that group has formed and makes decisions together and kind of moves together with respect to how this project needs to happen in a way to genuinely and authentically serve the Big C community at large is really there's a lot of healing and vulnerability and moving at the speed of trust that is happening in that space that wasn't necessarily an outlined deliverable, but is very necessary in terms of us being able to move into a future that is intentional and thoughtful for all people throughout Taos County and our kids and grandkids and people for generations to come.
Thanks so much, Contessa. I love the longevity view that you give and the way that you speak about this work and the work that you guys are getting to do in Taos County. Jessica, from your perspective, what has made this partnership successful? Are there some lessons that local governments could learn from the way that Taos County has approached this kind of work, but even just economic development in general?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So what has made this partnership successful? Let's just start with Contessa. She's amazing. That's that. There's no other argument around it. But Contessa, she is of this community, as she mentioned, with deep centuries old roots. And this work is very sensitive. It is very personal to people. Asking folks to talk to us about what they love about their community is vulnerable. And Contessa's connection and commitment to her community and to this place are real and essential. And I think it is so much of the reason this project has been successful as it has been. So thank you, Contessa. One of the things that we've embraced as local government is to move at the speed of trust. I think what is different about this kind of economic development, I put that in quotes because a lot of folks feel that economic development is one thing, that it is attracting business, it is landing investment from outside of the community. It is job numbers, it is dollar numbers. The way that we are approaching economic development is, yes, it's those things, and building this community from the ground up, from the inside out, is really our focus. And so we need to know what's here and what people want and what they value so that they can tell us as the county how to build the economy for them. It's really about us as the local government being the facilitator on behalf of the community, using our resources to say, oh, this is what you want to see in your community? Okay, let's figure out together how we build those things, and you get to be part of that co-creation. Rather than government saying, well, we've got a company interested in moving in, and so we're just gonna go ahead and do that deal to get the investment. It's slower, it's longer, it's harder. It's not a quick win. It is a long-term change and vision for how we build this economy. So I know that there's always a sense of urgency, especially when it comes to expanding the tax base and providing jobs. These things are real. People really need opportunities. And starting from this place of what does the community want, we're going to take years to learn that. Seems luxurious, but it is also very, very necessary to make sure that we have trust in our local government with the community.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Love the idea that opportunity would never happen in Taos County without the people of Taos County being thought of first. And so that's really, really awesome. Contessa, this project, it really centers on cultural and outdoor asset mapping. Now, we may have listeners who will not be familiar with some of these terms, or maybe a lot of the terms, or none of the terms that we've mentioned today. What does that actually mean? And why is it so important for Taos County?
Yeah, so I think alongside just kind of the history or narratives of economic development and kind of the inherent inferences of like extraction and taking, when you're doing like an asset map, right? You're trying to figure out what are all of the things and what is that associated like number or value there. But in an attempt to really make this project people and place based, it's like, what are those values? What are the things that are kind of collective facets of identity here that make this place special? And what do we need to know about the harms or challenges on those things in order to more thoroughly understand what needs to be put in place in order to combat those or to create opportunities and to make decisions on the government level in terms of how to move from that space? And so, some people might consider this kind of like a more woo-woo way of looking at what your assets are. But I think also it's such a central facet of the identity of this place and the people who have been here for a long time is that we don't own land. We are part of the land, and we are responsible for stewarding the land as a symbiotic relationship in like what we provide and what she provides for us. And so it's really looking at like if or when a natural disaster were to happen, there's all these kind of facets or tangents of how that information can be used. But if a natural disaster were to happen and all of the key facets of identity, the places, the people, the things that kind of are the foundation of like the identity of this place were to be gone, like how do we make sure to protect those things or to keep these things in mind in terms of disaster preparedness, or even with regard to opportunities within the creative economy, or kind of what those central needs or seeds that need to be planted are that can then be cultivated and stem and grow from there. And like Jessica is saying, is like this is the long game, but that's also why these people we're still here, because we've always played the long game, and we've had to work together and make hard decisions and collaborations with each other despite differences, in order for survivability throughout time. And I think that these core central values of this place and the people being at the center of the decisions being made can only help kind of continue that opportunity for generations to come for everybody.
I think one of the things I find so interesting about this project specifically is that it's really about balancing growth with preserving what makes a community unique, this idea of identity we've been talking about. As you think about the future of Taos County, what do you hope the lasting impact of this work will be?
I think for me, it just relates to maybe a reiteration of things that I've said, is just being able to steward this work in a way that will have benefit for generations to come. I think some of the challenges that we're facing right now in Taos County are things that, my parents' generation were talking about. And how do we, we're all invested in leaving a better future or opportunities for our kids and grandkids than the ones that we received. And so it's just like, how are we making decisions now that really adhere to the viability and longevity of people being able to stay in their ancestral home and have lucrative like careers and opportunities here, or to return home after exploring other opportunities elsewhere, and to be able to continue with the lifeways and the heritage and the opportunities that I think make this place unique, but also allow for such a deep connection in what that could look like. And I think with this project, something I say a lot and reiterate a lot is that we can't protect, restore, or revitalize what hasn't been uplifted by the community at large. And so how are we really using this information to create opportunities across the board to do all of these things?
Yes to all of that. And I think one of the things that I really hope, at least that a seed is planted, is that people feel like they are empowered to participate in the growth and preservation of their community. To say, I think there's such a tenor right now in the world that people don't have the ability to affect their own futures, or that there are a lot of things being put upon us, and that it's just too big to, or things are insurmountable, and that this way of working that has been extremely collaborative, consensus based, really thoughtful in terms of building trust, and that the values system of this project is that people tell us what they want to uplift. The county is listening. It is going to take that information and put it into the economic development plans, as well as into things like land use policy. So we're really trying to enshrine the things that people are telling us are what they want invested in. And I hope that whether it's now or in 30 years, that there can be an impact where people said, that was a cool way of doing work. We actually can do this. We actually can, like, that was maybe an interesting model. And it took a long time and it wasn't easy, but what a neat way of working. Let's kind of like try that again. So that's my hope.
I love that. So optimistic. I feel like you should be at this point in time a little optimistic about everything that's done, that's happened. It's been a long time, so I feel like you should be optimistic. That's awesome. Looking back on both of your time with the Economic Recovery Corps, how has this specific experience shaped the way that each of you thinks about economic development and community resilience? I feel like there's not a one size fit all kind of lens to view this through. So interested to hear what you both think.
Yeah, well, I think for me personally, I mean, I come from a background of nonprofit and community based and led work. And so I think for me, it's really changed my lens or perspective on what economic development means or could mean, or ways in which these things can be done. And I'm really grateful and like taken back by the opportunity to do this kind of work in such a people-based way and in such a place-based way that is really curated towards the needs of the community. And so I think the openness and willingness, and even I think within economic development as a whole and through the Economic Recovery Corps program in and of itself, where it's really working to change the landscape of economic development and how that can happen and can be done, and also developing community throughout all of the fellows and like a greater network throughout the country in 9 territories through work that I'm doing, work that other fellows are doing in different places based on the different outcomes or deliverables or things they're working on. Our ability to have or weave that fabric together to have other brains or opportunities to pull upon and bring into the fold is so valuable. And it feels like a very community-based way of doing economic development or solving problems or looking at potential solutions or opportunities.
Nice. Jessica?
It's been really interesting to see over the last 2.5 years how we've gotten to choose how we want to do economic development and really make it people oriented and hyper local, and deeply partnered with other community development organizations and entities. And I really understand that that's not the way that most economic developers get to work. That actually economic development is really siloed, in pigeonholed into a very specific kind of work. And just getting to be part of this project, and then also to learn about the other projects that are happening around the country for the whole cohort, it does show. I feel really lucky. I feel really grateful that we get to work in a much broader cross section of our community. And I don't, I think I don't know what that means for other economic development areas, because our community is really unique, and we are small and rural, and we all need each other. But getting to work in that deep kind of partnership and collaborative way, it's been really eye-opening.
Well, Contessa and Jessica, thank you both so much for taking time out of your busy days to share your experiences. If our listeners would like to learn more about the Economic Recovery Corps, they can visit economicrecoverycorps.org. Is there anywhere else you'd encourage people to learn more about your work in Taos County, or any resources you want to leave us with or that you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website for the project is www.culturaltreasuresproject.org. You can find more about our advisory group, the project itself. The resulting map will be on there, and another deliverable or tool or resource that folks can acquire through either the ERC channel or through Cultural Treasures Project is through the fellowship. My capstone is working on a toolkit, which is a sort of case study for this cultural asset mapping project. So if folks want to embark on something similar, that will be a valuable resource to kind of help give some insight into how we went about it here on our end.
Well, thank you again, both, for joining us. Once again, the website for the program is economicrecoverycorps.org and is linked wherever you are listening.